In the Impact segment tonight, Obamacare chaos continuing to take a toll on President Obama. According to a new CNN poll, just 41% of Americans approve of the job he's doing. 56% disapprove. That same poll shows Republicans getting a bit of a bounce from the healthcare mess. When asked who will have more influence over the direction the nation takes in the next year, 50% said the Republicans in Congress. 42% said President Obama. That was before the filibuster, though, deal. Joining me now to analyze from New York, Republican pollster Kellyanne Conway, and here in the studio with me, Democratic strategist Chris Kofinas. Let's start with you, Chris. So now it's CNN, Pew, CBS, Washington Post, ABC poll. I mean, this is not one poll. This is a series of polls. Bad news for the president. We now find out that in California, the exchange continues to produce disappointing numbers in the enrollment figures. They're down. They're about the same as they were before. They wanted an uptick. Mostly older people signing up, only 28% under the age of 34. What's your take on where this is going to go?
Well, in terms of the poll numbers?
Yeah, for the president and your party.
Listen, in terms of the poll numbers, I think the poll numbers are going to stay kind of low for a little while until I think the American people start seeing some better news when it comes to Obamacare.
When is that going to happen?
I mean, at some point it will. I mean, I think there are clearly, I think, some positives, and we know the positives in terms of, allowing people with pre-existing conditions to stay on their plan, allowing, children up to 26 to stay on their parents' plan. There are positives in terms of changes. The unfortunate thing is, because of the website, because of the individuals who've been kicked off their plans, it's created...
These people are getting on the website in California,
right.
But the people who are signing up are not those young, healthy, vigorous people that need to be in those exchanges for the risk assessment to make sense, right? So that's the problem. That's a substantive problem, not a technical problem. They're signing up, but it's the older people who are signing up.
If young people don't sign up, it's still early. Like, if you look at the Massachusetts example, people did not sign up till late. Now, granted, if we're talking about this come January or late February, then I think we got a major problem. And then I think the questions of what needs to happen become much more difficult.
Kellyanne, I just get this feeling when I looked at people yesterday, like Mark Pryor on the floor of the Senate. Yes. I mean, he just looks like a defeated man. Yes. Of course, Democrat Arkansas up for a tough re-election battle. I mean, who knows? Anything can happen. But this is rough. I mean, you keep thinking, okay, it's going to stop. It's going to stop. But every day there's more bad news, and we'll get to the fact that the administration is going to make an important delay of Obamacare enrollment deadline next year. But your take on this California deal, which is being mirrored in places like New York.
It is. And in fact, Laura, about 5 million plus people have had their health insurance policies canceled, and about 206,000, according to government statistics, have actually successfully enrolled. Now, we're in the holiday season. Americans are savvy consumers. They know that's a bad deal. And they're starting to see Obamacare for what it is, which is not a broken website. The website is just a metaphor for a poor plan. They're starting to see that this is the government, for the first time in history, forcing us to buy a product that we don't want or don't need at a price we cannot afford. When people heard reform early on, they would tell pollsters, I like that idea, because they think of reform for those who need it. They didn't think they needed it. And now they're being asked to literally pay a fine or pay higher premiums for it or pay the price for Obamacare by losing their own coverage. You can't introduce this level of uncertainty into something as private and as intimate as health care and expect there not to be a public backlash. That's why this issue has stickiness. And yes, it has stickiness politically. If I'm Mark Begich or Mark Pryor or Kay Hagan or Mary Landrieu, I may consider either defecting from the president or resigning and not standing for re-election.
Well, they might have a lifeline, though, Kofinas. They might have a lifeline because now they have put off the enrollment deadline. I mean, this is one of the most cynical moves I've seen in a long time. They've put off the enrollment deadline for 2014, so it won't really kick in until after the election. That way, most people won't see the premium increases and so forth until after the midterm election. And they claim today, oh, this is so people could have more time. Oh, well, come on.
Let's be
that's embarrassing. I mean, you can't say that this is not a cynical move.
Put that aside for a second. The lifeline, listen, elections are always a choice. And I think as both we saw in the presidential election, as well as we just saw in the Virginia gubernatorial race, if the Republicans
Ken Cuccinelli almost won. If it were 2 weeks later, he would have won. Do you think he would have won if it were 2 more weeks?
No, because I'll tell you what.
Yes, he would have.
You cannot lose women voters by that percentage.
Well, guess what? Women are turning against Obama.
He lost
Women
them
are turning
by 9.
against the
Romney
president.
lost women by 13 in Virginia.
Elections are about choices. And if the Republicans put up candidates that alienate women, alienate minorities, you're not going to win elections by saying Obamacare. You're not going to win elections by just saying Obamacare.
Listen, women are the chief health care officers or the House households, Chris, women in this country control 2 out of every 3 healthcare dollars spent. And when they look at Obamacare, they see the real war on women. It's a war on my right to choose whether I keep my policy, whether I allow a state exchange that allows me to have a 50-state true healthcare system in this country where you can sell policies across state lines, where there's tax equity, where there's health savings accounts. Let's talk about that. Do women,
the president's healthcare plan, whether you like it or not, does more for women in terms of preventive care,
that's a great soundbite.
in terms of covering birth control.
That's a great soundbite, but 53% of all the people in these polls are females. Listen, women now, a majority of women, Laura, are disapproving. This is huge. Everybody's looking at the approval rating. Look at the disapproval. A majority of women are
Let's just
disapproving.
wait till next year to see where things are.
I see. But Chris, I'd like to feel empathy for the Democrats, but it's
let it pass, Laura. Let it pass.
I felt
I saw your eyes.
Chris Christie. I sound like Chris Christie. That's what he said the other day. But at some point, reality has to settle in, and Trump ideology. Otherwise, you truly are the fanatics that you're claiming the Tea Party are.
Well, listen, I'll be the first.
That's fanatical to stay on this no matter what happens.
Listen, I'll be the first one to say that at some point, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, it has to be good policy. When there's problems with policy, and there's never been a policy passed by Congress and signed by the president that didn't have problems. So the question is, what do you need to do to fix it?
Not like this. Not in 2 decades of polling. Not like this.
If it gets fixed, then the American people will look back, we'll all look back and say, good, this is great. If it doesn't, then you guys will have a field day.
Wow.
But I'm not ready to give you that yet.
The president's seen as a politician. That's his biggest problem.
Chris and Kellyanne, there's not a political solution to every problem. Some of them are actually substantive, but we appreciate it. You guys have a good weekend. Directly ahead.